What is a factory folded pattern and why it matters? Hello folks, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Canada. If this is your first time with me, yes indeed, that is my real last name. And no, I don't live there. If you enjoy vintage, sewing, and sarcasm, go ahead and click the subscribe button now. Now in today's video, we are indeed going to talk about factory folded patterns and why they matter. However, a little backstory on why I'm going to go on this giant rant. I ordered a little lot off of eBay a little while back because a lot of patterns can be anywhere from 2 to as many as you want. I think the most that I've ever bought at one point was 600. So yeah, a lot of patterns can be whatever size you want. I found a lot of 4 patterns on eBay late at night. And as I was going through the description, it did say that they were all factory folded. So of course, me being me, I'm going to go click, buy, thank you. Well, they got here and it was not true. So instead of going on a giant rant, what I decided to do today is tell you what does factory folded mean, how to tell if it is factory folded, and why that's important. So let's grab our coffees and get into it. So first and most importantly, what does a factory folded pattern even mean? A factory folded pattern means that this pattern, say this one right here, the packet has never actually been opened or touched by human hands. The factory fold has still remained from the time that it came off the factory line until the time it came into my hands. Now this could be any time between when you were buying the pattern 2 weeks ago at your local Joann's or other pattern shop, or whether or not it came off the factory 100 years ago and you found it in the attic of a garage. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out this video right here where I open up a factory folded pattern. Please don't do this unless you know what you're doing. Now if you're buying a sewing pattern and you're looking for something that is uncut and factory folded, which is the standard abbreviational term for these patterns, you want to look for a few things. I personally prefer capital UC/FF. And this is a pretty standard term across the board. However, you will see some variations. Some folks type out uncut and FF. Some folks type out new and unused, and others type out new and uncut. Most of the time, this does mean that you're actually getting a factory folded pattern. However, you should always make sure to read the description fully, especially when buying a second-hand pattern, to make sure that your expectations are managed, because occasionally you will find patterns that are uncut but not factory folded, which if you're buying from me, I specifically lay that out. However, that is not the case for everyone, so just really make sure that you are very clear with what you're buying. Now, how do you tell if your pattern is uncut and factory folded? Well, for unprinted or perforated patterns, you want to look at the pattern packet itself. You want to look at the density of the pattern packet. You want to look for any re-iron marks. Or if you're working with a printed pattern, you want to make sure that you're looking for if the margins have been cut away or not. Now, when it comes to the packet itself, occasionally you'll get really nice, clean, rectangular packets that are folded very nicely. And occasionally you'll get ones like this, where I am unclear as to how many drinks the factory worker had when they were pressing this pattern, but it's clear to me that there was a little bit involved. Yes, I'm being completely sarcastic because there's no way I could possibly know that. But what I'm looking at here is I see a factory folded pattern. No, it is not perfect, but yes, it is factory folded because I see no re-iron marks. The density is exactly what I would expect coming off of the factory line. And when you open the pattern just gently, which is all the much I ever actually open it, I can tell that this was actually originally put in there because, well, those weird wrinkles wouldn't be there if they hadn't done that originally. Now let's take a look at an unprinted pattern that very clearly is not factory folded. Now with this one, before I even pulled it out of the envelope, friends, I could tell you it was not factory folded. Here we can see not only has the instruction packet been folded wonkily and re-put in, which does not normally happen in an actual factory folded pattern. The instructions are normally pristine and straight. You can see all the fringe and the folds right from the get-go. I can tell that this is not factory folded. It is very fluffy. It has a very thick pattern packet, which is not what you expect when you get a factory folded one. Factory folded packets, unless they are multiple items or a very, very large compilation, outfit, cape, dress situation, it's going to be a very thin packet, at least for the vintage patterns that I deal with, which are pre-1963. After 63, the packets do get a little bit thicker, but I'll show you some of those in the printed ones here in just a moment. So this one here you can see definitely has all of the wrinkles and it has all the tells of being re-ironed. Because while I can see the original press marks, I can also see where they have re-ironed it into the new format. Because right along here, you can actually tell where the original fold line from the factory was. Those lines are indicative. If they are not there, then you're looking at a factory fold. If they are there when you gently open the packet, you can just go ahead and open it up because your pattern is, that's right friends, not factory folded. And now that we've looked at our unprinted options, let's go ahead and take a look at 2 printed patterns that I did not get from this eBay lot, but just so that you have a full idea of what you're looking for. The first one we're going to look at is actually a pattern from 1998. Don't come at me, pattern purists. I get it. It's not from pre-63, but it's what I had at hand. So what we have here is actually a holiday pattern. And what you can see here, even from opening up the very flap of the envelope, I can already tell that it's a factory folded pattern. This pattern is neatly packed away, and while it is thicker, I can definitely tell that this was made by a machine folding it together, not by someone attempting to refold it with their handmade iron, with their iron at home. And what you can see here is the packet is very nicely put together, the instructions are exactly where they're supposed to be, and all of the original press marks from the machinery is still visible. And then we have another example of a non-factory folded pattern that is from McCall's in the 1950s. So what we can see here is unfortunately the envelope is a little bit distressed. And even just peeking out, you can see the pattern, how its multiple pieces are already pulled apart. And you can see very clearly that there is markings along it. You can even see the cut lines from the pinking shears as well. So what this tells me is that at this point I need to check this pattern for completeness and to describe any flaws or issues that may be present. Now, one thing to be very wary of, especially when dealing with vintage patterns pre-63 and even sometimes up into the 70s and 80s before the packets got too thick, is that a very skilled seamstress actually could take her home iron and repress it almost to the point that it looks like it was pressed from the factory. So what you really need to be checking for is those re-iron marks at that point. I have even been fooled once before where I swore the pattern was factory folded because it was so neatly put together, and then unfortunately it got to the buyer, and while it was complete, thankfully, it had actually just been re-ironed by a very, very skilled seamstress. But I will say that this is absolutely not the norm. It's normally a very clear case of not factory folded or factory folded. So you just have to really get to know the patterns and know what you're looking for when you're going to check for factory folded patterns. Now some of you may be wondering to yourself,
but Stephanie, why is it so important if a pattern is factory folded or not?
Well friends, it's like this. A factory folded pattern is like a 1960s Corvette. Beautiful, easy on the eyes, and ready to go. A non-factory folded is sort of like a 1960s Corvair. Still functional, seen as lesser than, and nicknamed the poor man's Porsche. Whether you're a buyer, a collector, or a seller, factory folded patterns always hold their value really well. Because the first thing to note is that while occasionally you will get a few flaws or deviations from the factory floor, talk to me about the time that I found a factory folded pattern I was going to use and it had 2 facings and no back panel. And it was definitely factory folded. This is absolutely not the norm. I'd say 99% of the time, the patterns that you're pulling that are factory folded are going to be completely complete and have never had human hands to manipulate them. And what that means is that no one has ever gone in to repin things, cut away margins, cut to the seam allowance by accident, whack it shorter for no reason, cut off sleeves for no reason, and you get the picture. There's never been a manipulation to the pattern, so the buyer actually knows that what they're getting is how the garment was originally intended from the manufacturers themselves. Factory folded patterns also hold their values as collector's items. So I do actually know a lot of folks, especially for the large format Vogues, collect Vogue Couturiers and Vogue Paris originals so that they can hold on to them for their longevity. Maybe they have a line from a certain designer, Lanvin, etc. So what you're getting is you're getting a collector's item that can also duplicate as an item that can be used to make an actual garment. And really what it gives the buyer is a sense of ease. You aren't getting a pattern that's been used by a previous owner, put away by said previous owner, possibly used again and again, and eventually comes to someone like me, who is then also putting hands on it to check it and then put it away nicely. So by removing all those extra steps, you lessen the ability for something to, quote, go wrong or be missing. If you enjoyed any of the patterns that you saw today, all of them are available currently on my website, www.backroomfinds.com. If you have more questions about sewing pattern sizing and why they are so wonky, I advise you check out this video right here in the card above. Let me know if you have any further questions about sewing patterns and what I can answer for you. I have been doing this for the better part of 10 years, and I've addressed all the topics that are like my trigger words, but I want to know if there's anything else that y'all would like to know. Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I do ask that you click that like button, being sure to turn on subscribe so you don't miss future uploads, and turn on the bell for post notifications so that you can actually be told when I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, folks. See y'all next time. Literally. God, why is that so dusty all of a sudden? Oh, shit. Don't mind me. Just looking at my own patterns. It's cool. Oh, excellent.
Unfactory fold the factory fold the pattern, please.
This is the recipe for disaster. Make sure you don't mess up the patterns, because that's a lot of extra work you don't want to deal with. What a factory folded pattern is, why it's important. Nope. So first and most importantly, what does a factory folded pattern even mean? Well, be less sarcastic, Stephanie. Be nice. And now that we've checked out our unperforated options, we're gonna look unperforated. How can you say you didn't think it was funny if you weren't paying attention and then you comment on the very thing I was talking about? What else did I want to say? I think that was it.